So friends, why did the Supreme Court, in the wee hours of Saturday morning, order the Trump administration to stop the deportation of Venezuelan immigrants? Well, we learned a little something about what the Trump administration was doing late Friday night with busloads of Venezuelan immigrants. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, I'm sure you already know about the remarkable Supreme Court order that was issued virtually in the middle of the night, Friday night into Saturday morning, by which the Supreme Court, 7 of the 9 justices, told the Trump administration to stop that in your tracks with these apparent unlawful, unconstitutional deportations of Venezuelan immigrants. Well, we're going to start briefly with the new reporting about that Supreme Court order, and then we're going to have a look at the backstory. What have we learned the Trump administration was doing in the wee hours, late Friday night into Saturday morning, with busloads of Venezuelan immigrants? Let's start with the new reporting about the Supreme Court order. This from the Washington Post: Supreme Court's pre-dawn order halts deportation flights for now. And that article begins, the fate of dozens of detainees in Texas remained in limbo Saturday after an extraordinary middle-of-the-night emergency action by the Supreme Court temporarily barred their removal by the Trump administration. The court did not explain its reasoning in its unsigned emergency order issued around 1 a.m., but directed the Trump administration not to remove any member of the putative class of detainees from the United States until further action from the Supreme Court. 2 conservative justices, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, dissented. Experts said the High Court appeared to be taking an aggressive step by intervening in the high-profile issue at this stage, but cautioned that the order does not address major underlying questions about Trump's legal authority to use the Alien Enemies Act to remove migrants from the United States. So now, friends, let's turn to see what the Trump administration and its ICE agents were up to late Friday night out in Texas. This from NBC News. As legal fight raged, ICE buses filled with Venezuelans heading toward airport turned around, video shows. And that article begins, video from Friday night shows Immigration and Customs Enforcement buses full of Venezuelan migrants headed toward an airport in North Texas and abruptly turning around before the Supreme Court ruled the Trump administration must, for now, refrain from deporting Venezuelan men based in the state under the Alien Enemies Act. At least 28 detainees, most, if not all, understood to be Venezuelan nationals, were placed on buses Friday evening at ICE's Bluebonnet Detention Center in Anson, Texas, and driven toward Abilene Airport, about 30 miles away. The motorcade, including at least 18 squad cars from various law enforcement agencies with flashing lights along the North Texas highways, left the ICE facility, with some men on board being told they were being deported to El Salvador, and some that they were headed to Venezuela, according to the wife of one of the detainees and 2 lawyers representing other detainees at the facility. Before they departed, it was not clear what their destinations would be. The video, obtained exclusively by NBC News, shows the ICE motorcade pass the airport's exit and then turn around, looping back to return to the Bluebonnet detention facility. The Trump administration is seeking to deport the men who it says are members of the Tren de Aragua gang It remains unclear whether the government has the authority to apply the Alien Enemies Act to gang members outside of a war situation, and whether adjudications about gang membership are accurate. The Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to stop its pause on the would-be deportation flights. And friends, on that topic, we will turn in a minute to this new filing from one of Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorneys, now the Solicitor General of the United States, John Sauer, asking the court to please lift the pause. And you would expect, of course, that John Sauer would have explained what that late-night bus trip and prompt turnaround, with busloads full of Venezuelan immigrants was all about, right? We'll get to that in a minute. Back to the article. An abrupt turnaround amid Friday's court fight. As the motorcade was headed for the airport, a last-minute federal hearing on the matter was taking place in Washington. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg, who has been hearing a case related to the flights to El Salvador, scheduled an emergency hearing for Friday evening, just hours after a bus rolled up to Bluebonnet. Shortly before that hearing kicked off, attorneys for the American Civil Liberties Union also asked the Supreme Court to step in. This from the ACLU lawyer representing some of the detainees. Quote, "We hear they're on buses on the way to the airport," said Lee Gellert, the ACLU lawyer arguing on behalf of detainees on the verge of being deported under the Alien Enemies Act. Upon learning the information, Boasberg asked Justice Department lawyer Drew Ensign to make calls to ensure no flights were deporting immigrants from Bluebonnet under the Alien Enemies Act on Friday night. Ensign said that he understood there would be no flights Friday night and that he was not aware of any plans for flights Saturday, but that the Department of Homeland Security reserved the right to conduct flights Saturday. At the same time, the ICE buses were nearing their approach to the airport exit. The High Court then offered its ruling early Saturday that the Trump administration must halt its deportation flights for now. A spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security would not comment on who was on the buses or why they turned around. DHS and ICE did not immediately respond to requests for comment Saturday night. So friends, I'm sure there was nothing fishy going on there, nothing unlawful, nothing unconstitutional, no violations of the due process rights of those Venezuelan immigrants who were taken from that Texas detention facility, stuffed on to buses and headed out to the airport. And then when it seemed like there were some court filings and the federal judiciary was going to get wind of what was going on and they directed that some calls be made, what happened? Whoa, right past the airport exit, turned around, headed back, and delivered those Venezuelan immigrants back to that Texas detention facility. Maybe they were just taking them out for ice cream. But then we just got, this Sunday, a filing from, as I say, Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney, now a Solicitor General for the United States, saying, hey, Supreme Court, we're going to need you to lift the pause, the stop order you put in place. And they, in essence, say, just trust us, trust us. We're Trump lawyers. We're not going to go deporting anybody in violation of their due process rights. Come on now. And of course, when you read this 15-page pleading, he sets out in great detail what this, midnight run to the airport with busloads of Venezuelan immigrants who apparently had not had their due process rights satisfied, honored, fulfilled. You would expect that he says, no, this is all some misunderstanding. Is there any mention of it in the 15-page petition? that the Solicitor General just filed with the Supreme Court, explaining it to anybody's satisfaction? What do you think? Well, friends, fortunately, at least for now, it looks like the federal judiciary is holding strong, standing up, pushing back, not allowing Donald Trump to take a blowtorch to the US Constitution. And let's hope that continues. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.